story. And I want you to take this to your heart and never forget it. One day, I had a disagreement with my husband. And it was at an earlier time in the ministry when I was like super crazy busy. You know, I was raising my young family, they had sports, they had this, whatever they were doing. He had a business, I was trying to help him with all that kind of stuff, bookwork and everything. We got in a fight about something, I don't know what it was, I don't even remember, but stupid stuff. But it wasn't stupid when we were going through it, right? So, I remember going before the Blessed Sacrament. It was at St. Ronald's Church. I'll never forget this, all the days that I lived. I went to St. Ronald's Church and that was it. It was my last straw. Walked out of the house, went to St. Ronald's. It was quiet in the middle of the day, nice and private. I found my spot next to a big beam where nobody could see me. And I got on my knees and I was just pouring my heart out. And I was pouring my heart out to God to fix my darn husband. I have all this stuff you gave me to do in ministry, and they're working from morning to night, and these kids are going to drive them over here. I might as well just throw my pillow and blanket and live in a daggone car, because all I do is just make everybody happy, blah, blah, blah. And then I got to argue with him because, you know, whatever I was arguing with. And Lord, you just got to change him. You got to make him a holy man so that, you know, he makes you his Lord and Savior fully, like I have. And my life will be easier, and I can do all this divine mercy work that you're calling me to do. And blah! And in the middle of that, I heard the Lord say to me, Catherine, and here's Mike. He says to me, you missed the best part, honey. He says to me, Catherine, the Lord called me by my name. The Lord called my name, Catherine. I desire that you go out into the land and bring with you a caramel apple with everyone in the household. Give them my blessing. And I just stood dumbfounded. And I thought, what? Go out, what land? What caramel apple? It's the devil. It's the devil. It's the devil. So I just went right back to my prayer, and I was praying, fix my husband, Lord, you know, blah, blah, blah. And if you give him a deeper conversion, it'll make my life easier, blah. And Jesus repeated himself. And rarely does God repeat himself. And rarely does he say a lot of stuff. He said to me, go out into the land and bring with you a caramel apple to every household, and with it give it my blessing. Give it his blessing. Well, I got up and I sat down in the pew, and I knew it was the Lord's voice. There was no mistaking. And so I said, okay, I don't understand. I don't know what you're talking about, go into the land. And I don't know how in the world I'm going to get caramel apples for every household, but okay. And that night was the prayer group. That night, our prayer group gets together. We had Rosary, Holy Mass, and then afterwards I gave a talk. And so I remember after Holy Mass, I got up to give a talk. And I know my knees were visibly shaking, because I had to say to these people, I was in prayer today. I'm telling what I was praying about. I was in prayer today. And God said to me that he wants us to go out and bring a caramel apple to every household. Go out into the land and bring with us a caramel apple for every household. And with it to give us his blessing. Oh my God. I wanted to just die. I know. This is it. This is the end of everything. They're going to think I'm crazy. Ooh, I don't even know what this means. And you could hear a pin drop. Finally, probably after 3 minutes, one of our members stood up, Carol D'Agostino. Carol D'Agostino stood up, little thing like that, and she said, Catherine, if God says it, we have to do it. And it was the first nice breath that I took. Just a little bit of peace. Oh, there's one person, right? Then there was a new person that day, that evening, who attended. Never saw her before. She stood up and she raised her hand, and I said, yes. She said, I will supply all the caramel that you need. Well, this new person was Helen Morley from Morley Candy Factory. Don't get better than that. We had all the caramel that we needed, top notch. Her only request was that she would be present when they made the caramel, whatever process, because it had, the backing of Morley, and we had to, So no problem, do whatever you want, knock yourself out, cook all the caramel. And then another lady stood up and she said, I'll supply all the packaging. I live right next door to my cousin's orchard mill, whatever, and they do all the caramel apples. I'll get all the packaging for it. Done deal. Another lady stood up and said, my cousin, whoever he was, or husband, worked in the market, Eastern Market. Got a truckload of apples, all the apples we needed, and so we were on our way. There was nothing. It did not cost me a penny. So the day came, and over the weekend, we were making all these caramel apples. Still didn't know why. Still didn't know what the land was, so I just said, well, we're just going to go around. We were at St. Barnabas Church. We found out, all the names of the streets. We split them all up. We're all going to take a street. So all weekend, we were making these caramel apples. Everyone who came to the 4 o'clock Mass was upset with us because we would not sell them. We told them you had to go home, and tomorrow we're going to pass them all out. It smelled for blocks. It was so amazingly, wonderfully caramely, smelled everything. It was wonderful. Finally, everything is done. It's Sunday. We go to Holy Mass before we're ready to go out into the woods. And as I had just received Holy Communion and was coming around the last part of the chairs at St. Barnabas, I heard the voice of Christ say to me, the caramel represents my sweetness. The sweetness of Christ. The sweetness of Christ. And it just touched my heart. And so after we were all done with Holy Mass, we were all had like wagons and things filled up with caramel apples, all beautifully packaged. There were clouds, like black clouds everywhere. So everyone was saying, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? Maybe we better wait, so on and so forth. Let's take umbrellas and raincoats. I said, leave it all here. Do not take an umbrella with you. It will not rain until we get back. Sunny Elliott. I just knew God was doing something so powerful, so I had all the courage in the world. We went out into the neighborhoods, no raincoats or umbrellas or anything. And we had the church paper, and we had a little prayer thing of blessing, the blessing of God to each household. On my block, the very last house on the block that the very last house that I had to go to, and the last house on the block was this bust out, dilapidated looking, very scary house. So the stairs that led up to this house were like broken and cracked and everything, wooden. And it looked like a haunted house. So it was at the same time when all those people were getting shot by the pizza, they're delivering pizzas okay. So all this fear came over me about going to this house, right? And so all I could think of, and my oldest daughter was with me, confirmed it. She goes, Dad would kill you if you go up to that house now. You could just, right now, Dad would be so upset. He would want you just to leave, not go to this house, right? So I said, well, we're going to pray a St. Michael prayer and go up. So we said the St. Michael prayer, and the steps went up sideways, so the front door was this way. And so I somehow got up those stairs, and I noticed that the door was open, ajar. It was ajar, and it was black, pitch black inside the house. So I just kind of like knocked on the door like that way, and I said, Divine Mercy, and this faint voice came out, but it was a man's voice, and he said, come on in. And I was nervous, but I did. I pushed the door open and I kind of looked inside first, and I saw this recliner chair with this guy in it, and so I walked in, and I made my daughter wait outside down the stairs. I walked in, and I saw this, as I came up to this man, I saw that he was obviously very ill. He had been released from the hospital 2 or 3 days earlier. 2 days earlier. His brother got in an altercation with a handicapped person across the street, and they took him to jail. All the utilities and such were turned off in the house. Obviously, it was poverty. He was a cross-addicted person, his brother that owned this house. And this man in the recliner had been brought home from the hospital. He was in the hospital for 6 months. He was in a coma for 6 months. And had been brought home. I don't know who got him there, but he ended up in that condition. And he was too weak to get out of his recliner to get his medicine these last 2 days. So he was in really bad shape. And he asked me if he could have 2 apples because he was so hungry. And I said, no, the Lord said 1 apple per household, but I will go get you some food. In the meantime, I just opened his refrigerator and looked in his cupboards. I knew he couldn't get out of that chair, so I was safe. And there wasn't even a peanut butter or ketchup jar. There was nothing in this house. This man hadn't had his medicine for 2 days. He hadn't had a food or water for these 2 days. So, as God's providence would have it, a couple of the women that were in our prayer group at the time were nurses. And so right away they came and they ministered to him, and we went and got food for him and set him all up, and long and the short of it, got his strength back. We helped him through a really difficult time, get his utilities turned back on, etc. And he ended up starting to come to the prayer group and attended his first Divine Mercy Sunday and made his sacraments. So for the last one on the last block, God knew that ahead of time. He wasn't interested about any conversion of my husband or whatever else. He was worried he has him. He was concerned about that person who wouldn't, one more day. In fact, the nurses said that if he would have, he probably wouldn't have been able to make it through the night without his medication or any food or water. He was too weak to get out of that chair. And Mary Jane was just here, she left. But anyway, she was there to witness that with me, that for one. All of that for one. What a lesson we learned. God gets suffering. He sure gets suffering. So when we find ourselves in that condition, and especially if it's long term, God give us the grace. Give us all the graces, that great holiness can be had in this time. Great conversions. Many souls released from purgatory. We don't know. We don't know what God's going to do. Mary Jane, do you remember that? Yes. Yeah, she remembers that. So, living testimony there. One was spared. Anyway, God bless us. God bless our families and bless us in His love, right? Never that we be separated from Him. Like St. Padre Pio would say, Lord, let me never be separated from You. Anyway, if you would like prayer for healing, remain seated and our prayer ministers will come to you. At this time, I would like our